Hello and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always I'm joined by award-winning director Brian Redondo and Savon Jones, aka Captain Bonnie. This is episode 132, and we find out what it's like to be a sad boy, Mark Grayson style, as we discuss the first couple episodes of Invincible Season 2. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund.
Incredible!
Hello, gentlemen! Welcome back, Confidently Wrong. Good to see you all. Sav, how you doing today? You got plans to go to the farmer's market?
I think I'm doing
Wes,
okay.
you can't just say, like, I'm going to put my hater pants on and then abruptly start the podcast.
Yeah.
What is
And then
happening
ask
here?
How you doing? Not
You'll
well.
find
That's
out.
how I'm doing now. Yeah, but no. After this, I'm gonna go to. I gotta do a little tea re-up. It's finally starting to get cold. It's gonna be.
Tea
nice.
re-up.
It's gonna the weather peaks and you're getting into fall winter time. You know the weather is gonna peak in the high 40s today. That's as hot as it's gonna get.
Oh, chilly.
This is all, like, very Savon-specific jargon. Just like,
What you mean?
tea, he got tea things. Like, it's not spilling the tea. He's actually getting tea.
Yeah, I need to buy more tea. It's getting cold and
His chamomile, his chai.
yeah.
I had Rooibos. I can't even say it.
I don't know how to
I had
pronounce
that
it
like
either.
a month ago. That was very
I
delightful.
don't know what you're talking about.
It's okay. We're
All right.
Tea.
Great.
I'm doing
You got any
good.
climbing plans this weekend?
No, man.
Did you get your actual Spider-Man on?
No, because I hurt my back earlier this week.
Oh, gosh.
Not climbing, just sleeping. I woke up with like some real serious back pain, and like
Oh,
the
damn.
last couple of days
Welcome
I've
to
been.
old age.
Hey, chill out with that shit. But yeah, it's pretty bad. Actually, I can feel it right now. It's like whenever I lean forward,
Yeah.
leaning forward motions, or like sitting leaning forward, I just feel it sharply in my back. When I'm walking and moving, it's fine, but like trying to put on pants or sit down, I just feel it. It's pretty trash. So I'm gonna actually lay low, but I want to get back into the climbing soon because I've been putting in work.
For listeners who can't see what Savon is doing, he's literally doing the lean forward meme, you know, when you're playing video games and it's time to buckle up. He's literally doing
Bulls
that
on
right
thighs, bulls on
Shoulders by ears.
shoulders by ears, bulls on thighs. Let's get it.
Brian, how's your weekend plans going?
Not bad. I'm going to go see
bad.
my auntie later.
Oh, hey.
Hi, auntie.
Do you call her auntie or do you call her tita?
I call her Tita. It's different for both sides of my family. On my dad's side, everyone's Tito and Tita. On my mom's side, everybody's auntie and uncle. Don't ask me why. I don't know.
I don't know.
Filipino things.
All right. Well, this episode we get to talk about Amazon Prime Video season 2 of Invincible, based on some deranged comics, spearheaded a little
Says
bit
you.
by.
Says you,
by-
Wes. Deranged? Come on. Is that the
It's pretty
adjective
deranged.
here?
No, the boys.
I
You're
don't
talking
know.
about the boys comic, not Invincible. We're talking about good things in these parts.
Invincible. Groundbreaking? Huh?
Groundbreaking,
Goated.
very violent, quite bloody, but ultimately kind of a cool exploration of different foibles and situations and unwinnable. It puts people in unwinnable situations, which is kind of the strength of the show.
Feels like this
so-
podcast.
So we're in season 2. Seth Rogen, I think you said, Brian, had
He's
a
a
part in
producer.
making this come alive.
He's a producer on The Boys and Invincible.
Okay, so he's into it. He's into
And the
comics
last
and-
Ninja Turtles
and the
movie.
Yeah,
violence.
he's really
Yeah.
in his nerd bag.
Yeah. And for the better, right? Like all three of these properties, very different from everything else that's going out there. You know, taps into the superhero nostalgia thing, but flipping it a little.
Mhm.
a little bit with lots
Appreciate
of blood. So voice acting, we've got J.K. Simmons, we have Steven Yeun, and we have Sandra Oh. I think are kind of the headliners. Is that not how you say it? Is Steven
No,
Yeun?
they're the highlighters. Yes.
I don't know. Savon gave me a weird look when I said Steven
Oh,
Yeun's
I'm
last name. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, I think that's how you say it.
All right.
There's
Great.
a bit with him and Conan O'Brien where he corrects Conan for saying it incorrectly, and Conan's like, "We've known each other for years. This is the first time you've said that. What, making me look like an idiot?"
All right, so we're into it. We're back with Mark, who is Mark Grayson, who's not Dick Grayson, but Mark Grayson. He's in Invincible. He's a young teenager trying to figure out his high school life, trying to figure out what it means to be a superhero, and dealing with the fallouts of having learned in the last season that his dad is part of the Viltrum Empire or Viltrumite Empire and is literally there to take over and make everyone on Earth a not a slave. That's not his deal. They just want to make them their subjects and rule them with an iron fist. And we open. Well, let's talk about we'll talk about where we open in a second. What were your expectations coming in, especially knowing that both of you love season 1? Sav, keep it short. I know your expectations were high on this one.
Yeah, my expectations were high. Really, my expectations were not really going to get disappointed no matter what, because my question was always just, all right, what are y'all, the Invincible comic, which, I said I've read before, I've read beginning to end, is extremely long and a lot happens. So my expectation was always just, what are they going to condense? What are they going to adapt? What are they going to leave on the cutting room floor? How are they going to get through all of this? And even from the first 2 episodes, I can already see I like how they're pacing out some of the background side arcs in the comic that just they don't have time to adapt. So that was a part of it. And the other expectation, which I knew was going to happen, was just a better animation budget. Now that we know that this show is good, people like it, now that they have time to really lean into the animation production increase, that immediately reflected in the first 30 seconds. Even in the Adam Eve special, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. They just needed the animation budget and time to actually make the animation match up with the quality of writing and voice acting. So the 2 of the things I'm already have expectations for, they've already met it and some. So I'm hyped.
It's not just Adult Swim eyes moving, but the head stays still.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like the animation before was, I think, bad per se. It's just you only have, clearly there's only so much production time, and they clearly picked their poison. So I don't hold it against them. I just hey, cool, y'all knew that this wasn't y'all final vision, and they stepped up. So
yeah, in season 1, you could tell where they invested the animation budget. Certain fights, certain encounters, and then the other half of the episode, it's Invincible in a still drawing moving across the screen, not in an animated way, but because they just drag that image over it. Thankfully, so far in season 2 and in the Adam Eve special, I haven't felt them cheating that way like they did in the past. So that's definitely a plus. That's a big plus. And
creativity is born out of constraint, Brian. I don't know if you know this as a creator. I've really experienced this. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, maybe if they South Park the entire season, then we could count it as creativity.
All right.
But you know where I'm at on this. After season 1, I was floored by it. I went out and bought the compendiums of the entire comic series. I didn't finish reading the whole thing. I actually have left maybe 25 issues to be read, because in some ways I want to be, I want to take the animation, the animated show, and be surprised by it to some degree. So I'm very excited for season 2, and knowing that Angstrom Levy is going to be the major villain. He is such a crucial character in the comic book, and the way that they use the multiverse and him as a villain, the way that that's carried out in the comic book is just so good. It's so comic booky delicious, right? It's so genius.
Comic booky delicious.
Yummy.
Yes,
Delicious.
yes. The comic book fans know what I'm talking about. It's just it's one of those things where oh my God, Robert Kirkman thought about all of this, and it's just delightful. So
let him cook.
He shows up in the very first episode, and so I'm just thrilled to see how far they take it.
So I didn't know. I don't think I know what to expect. I'm not someone who's let me go buy the comics of this. I'm just I'll just wait for the animation or the seasons to come out on Amazon. I don't think I'm as big a fan of you guys as this one. And like I said right before we started recording, I'm gonna put my hair pants on a little bit.
You're wrong,
but we'll talk about that in a second. So I mean, it wouldn't be the first time. So we've got the end of season 1. We're left with this situation where Mark and his mom have learned of their husband and their father's just complete, like, utter, like, non-caring for them. He's basically immortal. He lives a really long life and doesn't really see them as anything other than, like, a little bit, like, they're just, like, part of his life, but they're not important to him. They're, and that's gonna reap the repercussions of that this season so far have just meant, like, both of them are trying to get over this, like, conception they had of their relationship with him, and it turns out that relationship with him was not at all what he felt for them, and it ended up being that not only that, but the dad was, basically trying to, snuff out, like, everybody on Earth that was going to be it could rival him for power. And he wanted Mark to join him. He was like, yeah, Mark, like, this is all
family
for you.
business.
Yeah, it's
Let's
very much
get
the
it.
ego Star-Lord moment here. And Mark was like, I don't think that doesn't
It's gonna
sound
be a
right.
no for me, dog.
Yeah, I don't think we're into that.
Thanks, Randy Jackson.
How do I get out of here? Where's the exit? Don't Matt Lauer me here in this situation. And so maybe I was watching too much morning show with Jen. All right. We'll cut that. We'll just cut that out. Just exit. Snip.
Leave it in. Leave it in. Let's be honest with the people.
All right. And I think this so far, like, has been, to me, it's just been sort of like a mishmash of things happening in the first 2 episodes. There's been, like, a little random battle with this guy and a little thing with this guy, but not anything like I super care about. The Maulers are back and they're trying to do something, but then things end up blowing up. And then, like you said, Engstrom, I didn't realize Engstrom was that important. And then he has this, like, weird corny line where he's like, I must destroy blah blah, he took everything away from me. And it's, like, very, like, whoa, you're very much, like, over the top here with this hate here, given that you're supposed to be so wise and have all of this knowledge and blah blah whatever.
This man did not even try to understand what happened in that scene, Brian.
It's possible. And I just don't care about Mark right now. He's just, I don't know.
Is he too mopey for you?
He's so mopey. He's starting to come out of it a little bit at the end of season 2 or episode 2.
What reason would Mark have to be depressed and mopey? The audacity of him.
I just don't care. I don't know. I don't care about Mark. So to me, he's been, what stood out to me the most is I loved Mark, watching him grow and, like, have these interactions in season 1. All of the stuff that he's done so far in season 2, I'm like, I don't care. Like, whatever. Like, pity you. I don't care. So
you don't care that his dad just, like, held him by the skull and rammed him through a subway car full of people, and they, like, murdered, like, thousands of Chicago
and tried to take over the earth, and he lost everything he knew trying to fight back, but still feels guilt because he felt like he could have saved people.
And all of that is a good point. I haven't cared about it. And maybe they could have done it a different way where, like, all of that stuff would be, like, actually relevant.
I don't think they would have made you. They could have made it relevant. What the hell is wrong with this man, Brian?
Him just staring straight ahead. I'm just like, all right, I don't know. What a waste of time. So
maybe it's been too long since you've seen Mark. It's been like 2.5 years, right?
It could be. I don't really remember. That's part of it. And then, but the mom,
what else
on the other
is
hand,
new? Wes,
what the mom is
remember.
Going through.
Oh man. Color me surprised.
On the other hand, what the mom is going through is actually meaningful. So it's not like I don't, or meaningful to me. I'm like,
sorry. What Mark's going through does not count. Even though the mother went through something comparable, hers does count.
That's what I'm
saying.
Both
betrayed and lost everything they knew. Mark's doesn't count. Debbie's does.
You are making my point. So for whatever reason,
I'm being sarcastic.
The way that they're introducing things for her and rolling it out for us, like, is actually impactful. I'm like, oh, I see, like, where this is going, and I'm interested to see where this goes. All the things they're doing for Mark, I'm just like, I don't know. I guess I don't, like, to wake me up when we get there is kind of like my situation with him, and I don't know why. Whatever has done in the first 2 episodes has not worked for me. In terms of Mark, I don't care about his, like, thing with Cecil. I don't care about him, like the only minor thing that's, like, cool is, like, he's like, I don't want to be my dad. Which is, like, that's where he's starting to come alive in the second episode. But I don't know. All the other stuff is just like, I'm going to sit around my room. I'm going to do whatever. Like, la, la, la. Like, I'm still trying to be a good boyfriend to Amber. But, like, he's, like, kind of being a good boyfriend to Amber. I don't know. Maybe
you're missing the youthful, like, innocence that he had in season 1.
Maybe. Yeah,
Where
I'm
it
not
was,
sure.
it was kind of like funny to watch him,
Wes
go through
doesn't
these
like
foibles,
Mark
still
be
be a
depressed.
teenager.
Wes doesn't
Yeah.
like somebody with reasonable good reasons to be depressed. Be depressed.
Maybe no, because the mom. I don't know. I'm into like what the mom's going through, and like Amber's still with him and treating him like he's like kind of normal or whatever, and like really helping him through. And it's like, I don't know, Amber, you could do so much better right now. Like, go live your life. You're 17. What are you doing taking care of this other guy? Like, you don't need to.
But how did you feel about in the first episode where we saw a different version of Mark? We
Oh yeah,
saw the
so
alternate
confused.
version.
I didn't realize. So I didn't realize that was an alternate version. I was like, oh shit, they just like made a jump. Like, I was like, oh, they made a jump to like a year later or something like that. And like Mark, and then I thought they were gonna go back and fill in how we got to this point where Mark had been obviously fighting him in the beginning. And okay, wait. So
Wait, so
no, wait. This is why I'm confused. Is because I don't know actually what happened to Omni-Man at the last end. Did he die or did he just leave?
he left.
Or do we not
left.
know?
He was like
flew
looking
off.
down at Mark's battered body, and then
Yeah,
he
and he
flew
left.
away.
Okay. All right. See, so yeah, so I didn't remember that part, but he's in the picture. So I was like, oh, so they jumped us ahead in time. Like Mark is now on the bad side. Like, holy shit! Like they're gonna fill us. I was like, this is gonna be like a really cool episode. And then all of a sudden, it switched to being something different. And then another thing. And then Angstrom Levy comes in, and then other thing. And I might have not been paying attention to how we got to like the current world, the actual world. What did they show us? I don't know. Or did it just like cut and then we're back in the real world? So that was really jarring for me because I'm stupid, or maybe I wasn't paying attention. I was tired, but I didn't realize when we had gotten back. Yeah, when we had gotten back into the like actual timeline. So then that took me a long time to figure out. I was like, well, and then we got Mopey Mark, and I was like, wait, go back to the like ridiculous Mark or the power hungry Mark. Like, let's hear more about that. So maybe that's also why I don't like Mopey Mark, because I'm like, well, like you just brought out this really interesting version of Mark, and now I want to know what happened. And now we're not getting that. We're just getting Mark walking around the house being like, let me sit on the stairs. I don't care. Mom tries to talk to me. Okay, I'm gonna walk out
Wes,
the door.
That's
not why I try to watch the
dumbest
show.
smart person I ever met.
Someone explain to me how did we get back to the main timeline? I don't know how they transitioned that. Did they even transition it?
They did.
And if they didn't, that's bad.
The whole point was that you see the alternate version. It's meant to be a fake out. And at the
faked me out.
And then at the
Faked
end
out,
of
bro.
it, when you see Angstrom, he gets taken by one of the portals that's created by a different version of him.
Yeah.
So that's the Angstrom we know consolidating.
Right.
So when the portal popped up, that was Angstrom summoning himself. And then when you have the scene where he meets all the versions. So, and to answer one of your other questions of why the Angstrom
that was also crazy. All the Angstroms just chilling in like this big long big room.
Here's to answer your question, Wes.
Conversing.
And you were confused about, why does Angstrom go crazy? If you recall, they made a point.
No, I wasn't confused about that.
Oh,
he was getting all the like memories and all the stuff.
So
and blah,
you know,
blah,
most versions of Invincible are a dick. So that's why he hates him so much. Because outside of our version, most other versions of Mark are evil. Like they had that line. There was a line with the Maulers even.
Which is what he says to the Maulers.
Yeah, there was a line with the Maulers. He's talking to the Maulers and like, did you know that in most other worlds, Invincible teams up with his dad and takes over the planet? So like, what makes it so that's why when he tried to do the memory merging thing.
Oh, I missed that line.
So when they did the memory merging, and then even the Mauler was like, you can't tell your memories from the others. Most of his memories are of Invincible, but most versions of Invincible are like evil. So
gotcha. I thought he was mad because Invincible like messed up
he tried to save Invincible
that exploded it, and so I thought he was like, he foiled my plans.
He tried to
and I
save
was like,
Invincible.
whoa, that's very much like Krang from TMNT. Like,
no, he was explicitly trying to save Invincible because he said he's a pacifist. He doesn't believe in violence, but the machine malfunctioning meant that the memories got blended in a crazy way. And what happens is that most versions of Mark are evil. So like, all of the memories were versions of the Mark we saw in the beginning episode, who's just a complete monster, not the version we know who's actually a really good-natured person. So that's why he goes off the deep end and is like, I can't stand Invincible, because every other version of him is really bad.
And maybe that's a hiccup with how they told the story in the show, that Wes kind of blanked on it. Both me and Savon, we are already familiar with this backstory and what happens.
Well, they
So
changed it in the show, though. I mean, in the thing, they changed it, though, because that was one thing I noticed, because in the comic, which isn't a spoiler, but in the comic, it's more of a freak accident, and Angstrom's reasoning for being mad in the comics makes less sense than his reason they explained in the show. I think the show actually has done a better job of kind of explaining why he has this visceral hate. Before, it was just Invincible fought your machine, but actually you were the one who effed up. This one, it's a little bit more of a gray area of he tried to help Mark, but that backfired. So actually, I think this is another case of a good change that they made that makes Levy, I know, Brian, you and I agree that he's one of our favorite villains in the whole series, but his motivation makes way more sense in this version. Them being clear, he's a pacifist. He has, really positive notions. He was a little more neutral in the comics. So if anything, I think,
yeah, that's true.
So if anything, I think the conflict makes more sense, and it's actually more tragic knowing that he was never really a bad person, just crappy circumstances trying to save Invincible's life, and that leads to him turning himself into his greatest enemy. Like, I'm actually really, really digging that. But either way, I think you're going to enjoy him as the series goes on, Wes. He's a very fun character. And clearly they're tightening up certain elements of his character. So I'm like, ooh, okay, let's see how this looks later.
The visuals of him is a little bit crazy.
Yeah, exactly. That's a lot. Sick.
His head is like all brainy and stuff. All right. So 2 episodes in, what has stood out to you guys the most? Because obviously I already told you what stood out to me the most, which is Mark is boring and I don't care about him right now. Why am I blowing bubbles? What the fuck? Why are there bubbles? What is happening?
You tell us, Wes.
I do.
I have no idea what's going on in your side.
Wes just has moments. Sorry, listeners. Wes has moments where he turns into a literal infant, and I don't know why this is happening.
He's like, squirrel.
Bubbles.
You can see what I'm
look, it's a pumpkin.
My computer's just doing random things where I'm getting fireworks.
Yeah.
I'm in 4th of July. Friends.
So here's what I'm really enjoying about the season so far. I know I talked about the animation, and so this is in stark contrast to what you liked, Wes. I love the way they're portraying the aftermath of the season 1 finale. That whole intro where Mark is flying around the city aimlessly, doing his heroics, but clearly depressed, going through the motions. I think they are doing an amazing job of showing just how, like, from an animation perspective, Mark has these sad, tired bags under his eyes. The first 2 episodes, he still has these just, do you know what I'm talking about, y'all? And y'all notice it? He just has those depression bags, and he's just tired and mopey, and I love it because
I feel attacked.
He went through something extremely traumatic, and I would have been more upset if they tried to just gloss that over and pretend that this like historic event didn't happen and Mark wasn't at the center of it. Mark having to publicly, people think that his dad just died and it was like a sad situation, knowing that actually his dad was the exact opposite. He really, like when the kid hugs him at school, Mark really feels that conflict of someone saying condolences, I'm sure your dad was good, when actually your dad is the reason, has destroyed everything you've ever known, right? Mark wanting to do the right thing, wanting to not be his dad, the strain it has on a relationship with his mother, and Debbie trying to balance finding her career, finding herself, the alcohol, all of that. To me, I've really enjoyed that because this is the comic books have a big issue of just glossing over traumatic things and awful things that happen to people. And anyone who's read this series knows that Mark goes through a lot. And trust me, just based on the comic, he's going to go through a lot more. Like, the dude goes through that blender. But it makes his character development that much more serious when you see, like, when he's trying to celebrate his high school graduation and his friends are just like, I'm on call, I can't. He really takes on this burden and weight that, to me, they're portraying it very well. He doesn't want to be his dad. He wants to be a hero. He's different. We know that he's different because we know other versions of him are pretty evil. So that really drives home that, like, this Mark is different. And I like that in a show where there's lots of gray areas and morally ambiguous characters or outright evil characters. Mark is genuinely a good person. He can be misguided. He might be naive. He might be all those things, but Mark is a good person. And watching him navigate that while still being depressed and mourning and going through all this other stuff is making me care about his character in a way that I've never disliked Mark's character, but Invincible has such a huge cast that it's easy to have other favorites. But they're making me a bigger fan of Mark now than I was in the comic run. And I think that is a testament to just good writing, good cinematography. Like, I rewatched that scene of him flying around the city to, what was that song, Karma Police or something?
Oh yeah,
Like when he's
Radiohead. That was perfect.
Like that was amazing. Like I could rewatch that scene over and over of just how he's a good person who's gone through it, and seeing like this is gonna make, I think this is just gonna make his character that much more interesting, because it's gonna be a case of, all right, dude, how are you gonna reconcile all this that you're going through, and how is this gonna impact what kind of hero you're gonna be, knowing that there's gonna be big stuff that comes up later in the season, right? It's still Invincible. Something's gonna pop off. Like, how is he gonna be different from his dad? And now that that's really a big elephant in the room with all his interactions with his friends, family, work, it's an engaging conflict, a good internal one at that.
Yeah, when Mark slams the table at the burger joint because he's angry and worried about becoming like his dad, I think that had a lot of punch to it, right? Like it felt like, oh, this guy might fly off the handle and really become Omni-Man, which would be devastating. To add on to everything Savon said, I think one of the things that I noticed in the second episode, which I wasn't prepared for actually, was how many different storylines they jumbled together into one episode, which I don't remember them really doing in the first season. I remember the first season, yes, they dove into side characters here and there, but every episode sort of had its, had a very clear plot going on. In the second episode, we get Darkwing, right, in the Night City. We get the Lizard League that the Guardians are fighting, and sort of their internal politics of that group. And then we also get Professor Seismograph, or
Doc Seismic.
Doc Seismic. Yeah,
he's not a professor. He did not teach.
Never taught college. And then there's more stuff with the mom, and so
a weird shower scene.
With Duplicate.
Oh yeah, and that was in the comics.
Rex was like, wait, are you what?
Straight out of the comic, like that was
definitely
panel for panel. Like,
were they?
And
was
also,
Kate's powers tied together last year too? Would they like cross each other's experiences?
She was doing that with Rex last season. That,
but yes, there was a shower scene last season. But they never
like,
showed the part where her duplicates are also experiencing the same thing. And actually, in episode 1, there's a fun Easter egg. Duplicate's brothers in the background.
Oh, multiple.
One of the shots. Check that out on second viewing.
That.
But yeah, so episode 2 has a lot of different things going on. It seems like a signal that the show is going to invest more in all the side characters and side plots. And I would say maybe as an episode, as a self-contained episode, it didn't feel like that wholly satisfying because we're being drawn in different directions. But I'm hopeful, because I know that these things do pay off later, that during the course of the season, investing in some of these side plots is going to feel really nice when they reach their peak.
Absolutely. And they're doing a good job, I think, of trimming the fat. Like, we got to have the Atlantis thing, which the
Atlantis thing was also in episode 2.
Yeah,
good lord, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, which is really long in the comics, but I think what I'm excited for, Brian, is that in the comics that goes on way longer, and they trimmed it down to where you get to still get the broad strokes of what happens. You still get plot relevant stuff, which is that Invincible still ultimately wants to do the right thing, even if he's been blatantly wronged, to show some of his just inherently good nature. But also, I don't know if y'all peeped it. Wes, you might have missed this. I just always say when you think, Wes, you might have missed this. is that Sonic attack with the underwater beast is them setting up some really hype stuff later, because it was clear, Viltrumites, do they have a sonic weakness? Do they have some kind of sound weakness? Cecil already trying to...
I caught that, yeah.
That. So, like, they are doing a good job of taking arcs from the comic that are harder to adapt lengthwise into the show, cutting it down to where it still does its role, but still making it relevant to the larger plot and give you good development. Like, so, because in the comic, it's supposed to be, Invincible's supposed to make love to the name of the episode is, in 6 hours, I'll lose my virginity to a fish. That's a line from the comic that they cut that out of the show because they cut that whole side plot out. because it's silly and you don't need it in this. But you still get Mark's still a good person. He wants to help. Hey, by the way, Viltrumites might have had a breakthrough in how they can harm or stop Viltrumites. And if they decide to strike that balance with these other side plots, including the Sequid invasion, which is basically just, the Invincible version of Starro the Conqueror from, Suicide Squad DC, and then the Lizard League's group, which they seem to be a joke group who clearly, at least in my opinion, they're trying to build them up to, they're going to have something happen with them because they're getting way too much screen time. They appeared, and if you recall, Brian, they also appeared in the intro to the Adam and Eve. So they're clearly setting them up as like a joke villain group who maybe becomes a real threat. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But I'm convinced that they're going to use all of these side plots in a way that we get cool world building, cool character moments, but also we drive the larger plot forward, which wasn't always the case in the comic. But that's okay because the comic had way more time and runway to do side stuff and have filler, which is acceptable.
Right.
Interesting to me because what you guys are saying, you're saying, hey, the Angstrom Levy stuff is going to be pretty much the main point of the season or at least the next few, seasons or whatever. Based on the first 2 episodes and knowing nothing about the comics, I couldn't have told you that. Like, I would have said, I don't know what the main thing is going to be here. Like, is it going to be that like the seismic guy comes back? Is it going to be this Lizard League thing? Is it going to be a totally different plot point with like Omni-Man coming back? Is it going to be, Immortal, does something or whatever? Like, I had no idea all these like side things, are all playing a role and they're all getting about the same amount of time right now. So I or maybe like the main villain hasn't been introduced yet. So interesting that you guys think that, or from your experience, that Angstrom Levy is going to be the main thing here. That kind of drives the season along. So good to know, I guess. But
what's juicy,
I think still, again, like the first 2 episodes have just been sort of all over the place. And so it's, it's been a thing, I think, for someone who doesn't have the background on it and also can't remember what happened in season 1. Like the whole thing with Doug, they really played up that like, what's her name? Denise?
Mm-hmm.
Debbie doesn't remember.
You said Doug. How do you go from Doug to Debbie?
No. The
Doug,
assistant, Doug.
The right-hand man to Cecil.
Donald.
Something.
Okay.
The guy with the glasses.
Yeah. So
Donald.
Debbie kind of goes like, whoa, like does a double take when she sees him, and Donald or whatever doesn't know why. And so like I was like, oh, did Donald like die at the end of season 1? And like I couldn't remember that.
Died.
Like, like they're doing all these things that like assume things, but like, dude, it's been so long since we've seen Invincible. Like, I don't remember everybody who died. Everybody fucking died, or everybody got hurt. Like,
Wes,
so
my God, that's a you thing, my pimp. Like, it's the second season of a show. They can't not reference the events of the last season, assuming that people don't remember. That was a pretty memorable scene. That was when Omni-Man, they blew up Omni-Man in them house because Omni-Man found out they were monitoring his crib. And, he went in like, oh, what the hell is this? And Donald blew up the crib. Like, that's when the jig was up. But I don't think they need to. Wes, you just got to rewatch the recaps or something, pimp.
I read an interview with Robert Kirkman, the creator of Invincible, the comic, and heavily involved in the animated series. And his opinion is like, we live in the age of streaming now. Like, there is no need to catch up audiences on what happened before because they have it accessible to them. I don't necessarily 100% agree.
No, because I'm not going to go back and watch an entire season of a show.
Like, I tend not to do that either.
I don't have time for that.
Like, I also didn't remember. I was like, Immortal's back already? But I didn't remember that they actually showed at the end of season 1 that Cecil was already working on rebuilding the Immortal. So there, I feel.
I forgot about that completely.
I feel some of your pain, Wes, but at the same time, I kind of also agree with Robert Kirkman. Like, there are things that you just have to roll with. And I don't think they make or break the story.
No.
I think they just might be a little bit of a distraction. But
it just means I'm spending some time trying to remember while like the show is going on. Like, was he one that died?
Do I just have a good memory? Do I just have a good memory? Because I don't have this issue.
Yes, you do, Savon.
You have a good memory, Savon.
Okay, I'm not trying to be a dick about this. I swear.
No, I'm serious.
I'm genuinely not trying to be a butt, but I'm like, does no one y'all not remember that happening? Like, that was a pretty noticeable scene. He grabbed the man by his spine. And the dude, like, self-destructed. I'm like, no one remember. That's why when I saw Donald, I was like, what the hell Donald doing here? Like I
Yeah,
had the
I
same
actually
reaction as
don't know
Debbie.
what Donald is doing there.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, I thought
want
you
to get
died
to the
last
bottom
season,
of this
Pimp.
mystery.
Yeah, I'm like, that's all right. Sorry, I swear,
All right,
I'm
so
not
now
trying
we
to be a
did-
jerk.
so now-
I'm not trying to be a jerk about this.
Wait, so this show now is momentous. What episode are we on? 132. So we've established now. My bad memory has been established for a very long time now. But now we've decided that Savon has a really good memory.
He is above average, maybe
Yeah.
beyond.
All right, so
He's
now
a
we've
man that
discovered
asks
this.
for receipts a lot, right? And there's a reason because he has
He has them.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be okay. This is good context for me, so I can
Yeah.
like not be a
Interesting.
jerk about people not remembering what they had for breakfast 3 years ago. How the hell you don't remember what you had for breakfast? You woke up, you ate it. You don't remember that? Like, what are y'all doing? Okay, I will make a conscious effort to tone that back because
Interesting.
I apologize a little bit, Wes.
I deserve all of the
But
flack.
equally,
You can
Wes
continue
gotta
to
level
yeah.
up.
Yeah, you can continue to give me flack. I literally do not have a good memory at all. It's pretty
I
poor.
will temper my expectations.
All right, let's keep going though. But I love this episode 132. Now we have established that Savon is not a normal, memory person. He's an advanced memory person.
We'll just say above average. I'm not about to gas myself. I'm not angstrom.
He's
All
Homo
right.
superior. Or what do they call it?
So-
in X-Men?
Savon was talking a lot about these side plots. Is there anyone that sticks out to you? You're like, you want to explore more in this season? Maybe, especially since you guys have read the comics, like you want to see it come to life in movement and action, or is it just kind of like all of it's cool? You're good with any of it, Brian? Are you interested in any of these side plots so far?
That's a tough one. I mean, like all of it is kind of good. All of it is kind of great and like pays off really well in the comics.
Right?
I do though. I really enjoy Guardians of the Globe and their
Really?
whole team. I love the arc that Monster Girl and Robot have ultimately, and even
So
the
good.
relationship between Duplicate and the Immortal, I think is a great storyline as well. Especially if they actually do some more service to Duplicate's brother and have that come into play. I think there's just a lot of fun things going on. So I'm hopeful that they continue to shine a light on that team and how their dynamics
I
play
think they're
out.
going to. They're clearly struggling and they're clearly highlighting how they're failing. Like you wouldn't do that unless there's some way for them either to come together or completely obliterate each other, right?
Yeah, I'm
so-
hoping they're not just like throwing in these things just because these are things that happen in the comics, right?
Oh, okay.
That's the other concern, right? Is that they're
Mhm.
just ticking boxes. This happened in issue 31, so we're gonna have something similar. Like I want to make sure that, or I want to see that all of these things properly pay off. So that would be cool. And then of course, like the Angstrom Levy stuff. Now that we're talking about it, I had assumed he was going to play a major role in this season, but Wes, I think maybe you might be right. Like it's
Right?
not a certainty. It's not a certain. It is possible that they actually stretch out his arc and make him be a sort of like a recurring subplot for a long time, and that they actually bring in a different bad into the latter half of the season. So I don't know. We could see a lot of
Who's-
different things happen.
Agreed.
Who's doing his voice? It's the guy from not the Parenthood. What is that? Fucking show
Honestly,
called?
I haven't looked it up. I kind of thought it was Wayne Brady.
No.
Am I off
It's
base?
definitely I'm pretty
It's
sure
Sterling
it's the guy
K.
from
Sterling
the
K.
man-
Brown.
Yeah. The man from the Parent show.
Oh,
the
the
sibling.
show
Oh, yeah,
that I
yeah,
don't
This Is Us,
watch,
This Is
that
Us.
everybody loves. The
This
Yes,
Tearjerker
yo,
show.
you're right.
Yeah.
It's Sterling K. Brown. No, you're 100% right.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
him.
Yeah, no, his voice is very recognizable. But yeah, I mean, I love anything he's in,
I'm a
so
Sterling
I'm
K.
excited
Brown
to
fan.
see where it goes and what he brings to the character. My favorite subplot so far is honestly the Adam Eve with her conflict with her parents.
Yeah.
Like that one has me the most like, oh, like this is kind of interesting that like she's really not getting along with her parents, not because she's doing anything like bad. It's because she's trying to do good things, but like isn't quite understanding like their moral framework around like you can't just like shortcut things, right? Like they're trying to teach her this lesson, or the dad is like really upset with her. He's not trying to teach her. He's like upset with her because she takes shortcuts and she hasn't yet learned like sometimes you actually have to do things quote unquote the right way, or you have to put in the work. like you have to earn things, and she hasn't done that yet. And so that's honestly like so far been the like kind of the most interesting thing is like, oh, superheroes still have to learn things and they can learn them from their parents or but it's creating a lot of strife in her life. And then we see at the end of episode 2 how her shortcutting a superhero move actually may have like really like created some problems for some people she was trying to help. Like her heart is in the right place. It's just like she's not quite figured out yet, like, oh, I still have to learn the things through wisdom and experience and actually earn them and put in the work. So
and I'm glad she got the Adam Eve, one-off episode that really fleshed out some of that relationship. You definitely got to watch that.
That would explain so much about the dynamic with the parents and like. And Frank, again, this is a case of.
You sure? I don't know. I feel like I picked up on all of that just through the things that they did.
You really get a feel like you do, and like the show does a good job of like you don't have to have watched it, but you'll get a much deeper appreciation of just that dynamic even more if you watch like her side show or the side episode. And again, this is like as awful as the dad is, he's a better character to hate in the show than in the comic. In the comic, he was kind of just sexist. And that wasn't really much else to it. But in here, like, yeah, he's still sexist and has a lot of problematic beliefs. But to your point, all the stuff about shortcuts, they didn't really lean into that in the comic. In the show, they're very much characterized. And like, is he a dick? Yes. Is he prideful? Yes. Is he all these awful things? Yes. Does he still have a point in this regard? Yes. And it's awful because you're like, it's like that Onion article where the worst person makes a really good point. And it's just one of those of him of like, I hate you, but like, yo, he's not wrong.
See, I have forgotten that we were supposed to hate him, so I was just seeing him be upset and like lose his job. And I'm like, he's a sympathetic character.
He is
right
one
now.
of the
definitely not sympathetic.
He is by far like he's comfortably one of the least likable characters. The only thing that makes him
if you just watch season 2, he's actually like not a good guy, but he's someone who like he's like actually a dynamic, not dynamic. He's a character with depth.
Well, they're giving him more depth, but he is still meant to be very much despicable and be like, dude, you effing up. But I guess you gotta watch season 1 and
I'll stop subscribing to his QAnon TikTok or whatever he's got going on. All right, very cool. Oh, Sav, are you into any side plots here, or have you talked about all your side plots you want to talk about?
Some of the side plots, I don't want to say too much about how I feel because I might unintentionally spoil something that like, this maybe it's significant, maybe it's not. But you know what? This is what I'm excited about. In Invincible season 1, the pacing of that season in terms of events that happened was totally different than when it was in the comic. Like in the show, what is it? I think the Guardians get killed in the first episode. In the comic, that doesn't happen until way later. And they moved around some stuff timeline-wise because I guess they just felt that for pacing purposes, it makes for a better story. They could absolutely do the same for this. So even though I know what some of these major plot arcs are going to be, the order in which they happen is going to be extremely important. And so to maybe a point you and Brian, and you hinted at that kind of made me and Brian both reevaluate, Angstrom is a very significant character, but he could absolutely be a overarching background villain rather than the main villain. But he could just as easily be the main villain. Would you agree, Brian?
Yeah, exactly.
Both are valid ways you can.
Sure.
Yeah, both are completely valid ways you can go about it. So for me, it's less about these arcs because I think the individual arcs are all awesome. Like the Sequid invasion arc, amazing. The stuff with the Lizard League, awesome. The stuff with Angstrom, all of it's awesome. I wouldn't pick one arc over the other. Now it's a case of, all right, how do y'all pace these out order-wise, and how do y'all tie these into each other? Like, again, not spoiling, but like the stuff with Angstrom, Brian, like the stuff that really happens with Angstrom. Does that happen before the stuff with the Sequid? Does it happen after the stuff? That does it, with some other characters who are out of play this season who might come back into play, maybe Omni-Man. For me, it's the order they put this that's really going to decide how I feel because it's all awesome no matter what. But these are all, in my opinion, very significant global, of the events of these different side arcs deeply impact the characters in the story. So how you stack it, how you layer it, how you scaffold it. You see that was doing some teacher term.
Well, education, education jargon.
How you scaffold that is going to be really big of how we receive it and interpret it. Like, do you catch a character with this at their lowest moment? Do you have this low moment come after a big victory? Either way, it's going to be exciting, and I have a lot of faith in the writers that they're going to adapt the right stuff. And to your concern, Brian, not just tick boxes. keep the actual story depth of these arcs and how it impacts characters, because certain arcs do affect certain characters more than others. Like the Sequid stuff clearly is going to tie into your boy Shapesmith because that's his home planet. How are they going to make that? How are they going to make that play out on screen? So
Shapesmith is so bad at his job.
yeah, and so exactly why it's like, hey,
I'm a normal human superhero. One thing important to note, though, just sorry, Wes,
I want to wrap this up.
Yeah.
We know that this season 2 is being broken up into 2 halves.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna get maybe get a mid-season climax and then a short break, and then get the other half of the season in the spring or maybe late winter next year.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's just season 3. What are we doing?
That might actually to what Savon is saying, there might be certain plot points that really bubble up before this year is out, and then another set of plot points that are going to culminate later. And it'll be interesting to see which ones they choose.
We're going to have a long intermission of sorts.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, thank you for telling me, because I was really upset when that happened in Across the Spider-Verse, and I didn't realize that there was going to be a second one.
What? How dare they?
Thanks for letting me know that I'm gonna have to put my patient pants on today, or not today, but at the end.
So you gotta take off your hater pants first.
Hater pants off.
You don't want to wear double pants.
Speaking of that, I'm glad to talk to you guys about it, because now I'm a little bit more excited about what's to come. Because man, after these first 2 episodes, I was kind of like, meh. I don't know. Like I'm gonna go play Spider-Man. I don't need to keep watching this.
Also, we haven't had a lot of blood yet. Where's the blood?
There's been a lot of blood.
Yeah,
not at all.
Getting the brakes beat off them.
Yeah, that first like opening scene, like everybody was just getting splattered and people getting crushed.
Plus, trust me, there's
plenty
of time.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking about.
Trust me, bro. There's plenty of time. We have a whole chunk of season.
Bring out the buckets.
Awful things to happen to people.
I don't know. Sometimes we don't need it.
Don't worry, you're gonna get it. Don't worry, you're gonna get it.
All right. Well, friends, maybe we should reconvene at the end, or maybe like at the end of this little half season, or maybe at the beginning of next half season, and we'll continue with our invincibleness. Yeah. So friends, hopefully you're watching this show, because Brian and Sav think it's going to be amazing. I so far am pretty lukewarm on it, but I'm open to it growing and being wrong about my initial experiences so far with this show. But man, Mark is boring, man. So far, get some.
Oh, Steve Young is so good.
Mark.
Come on,
get some something, Mark. I don't know. Get some style or.
Oh, he's gonna get something
interesting. I don't know. Whatever he needs. We need it quick.
He's
Episode
growing.
3 better be
He's growing. Come on. Give him
is he though? That's what I want to know. Is he growing? Because so
a
far
teenager.
Not so much. Yeah, teenagers should be going all the time. Yo, teenagers are not the same like day to day. So. Let's get on with it. Come on, Mark. You got some things to work on, and let's
stop being sad.
Stop being sad.
I know your dad tried to kill you and destroyed these cities and left, and it plans on coming back, and you're carrying the burden of his legacy and all that. But hey, why don't you smile?
His feelings are valid. They just don't make for interesting television. That's all. Friends. We're out of here. Invincible. Go check it out. Amazon Prime Video Season 2. Episodes 1 and 2 are up with more to come. We're out of here. Hit us up at @confidently_pod. Bye.
You're not interesting television.